Hi there, Malcolm here for my 371st Booktube video, and today I'll be adding to my Why I Read Science Fiction series with short story collections. Like with all genres, science fiction comes in a wonderful plethora of styles, subgenres and scale. From giant classics like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, epic trilogies like Peter F. Hamilton's Night's Dawn trilogy, and humongous series such as The Expanse by James S. A. Corey, I can see how someone who doesn't read science fiction might find the genre quite daunting. Now, of course, they don't all come in these great big tomes, series and such. There are plenty of slimmer standalone volumes, but a great way to dip your toe into science fiction. And science fiction is a brilliant foray for short stories particularly, meaning that many science fiction authors will have a collection of short stories available somewhere. Sometimes you can even go to their websites and they'll have short stories on there. And there are two main ways of reading a short story collection, the right way or the wrong way. The right way is you read one story from a collection. Either you pick one from the contents page that you think you'll like, or just try the first one. And once you finish that, go back to your main life, reading what else you're reading. And then later on down the line, could be days, weeks, months later, you pick the book up again and then read the next story. And this way you can find you'll sneak an extra book onto your read pile almost without really realising you've done it. Or there's the wrong way, which I usually do, is I pick it up and read it cover to cover like I would a normal book. Although with some stories I do feel I have to stop and pause and ponder on what I've just read before jumping straight into the next one. With different characters, different settings, different story, and it can be a bit jarring. I still do it though. Doesn't necessarily have to be science fiction, but that's the corner I'm batting from, so let's look at science fiction. Short story collections themselves are relatively easy to get hold of. Most charity shops or thrift stores will stock some at very low price, and they generally come under three main categories. Short stories by the same author, such as Harry Harrison's Galactic Dreams or Stainless Steel Visions, or John Wyndham's Seeds of Time and Wonders of Time, for example. And these wonderfully showcase the author's range, writing style and storytelling capabilities. So if you've always been curious about an author, these collections are brilliant to give you a good taster of what they're like. If you're really not sure, you can use the contents page to find the shortest short story and try that one, because you don't even have to read them in any particular order. So you're not investing too much time into something you're not sure about, and that should help you decide whether to go ahead with this author or not. The other type are the themed short story collections, such as Galactic Games, featuring sports with some science fiction element to it, either enhanced people or it's in space or the world's at stake or something like that. I've just finished reading Star Destroyers, which is a short story collection all about great big ships blowing stuff up. And again, there are a whole host of different themed short story collections you can get your hands on. I would say these are slightly harder to get hold of specific titles. There's generally something around, but not necessarily the theme you're interested in. But then I really enjoyed Galactic Games, even though I'm not particularly sporty myself. Slight understatement there. But these are great because they are written by a load of different authors, all on a similar theme. And it's always fun to see the different points of view of, this is the theme, what are you going to give us? And as a subcategory to the themed short story collection, there's the related IP themed short story collection. I mentioned Night's Dawn by Peter F. Hamilton earlier as a trilogy. He's also written A Second Chance of Eden, which is a short story collection set in the Night's Dawn trilogy, featuring some of the characters, locations, technologies, set before certain events, set after certain events, just to flesh out that world a bit more without affecting the main storyline whatsoever. Memories Legion by James S. A. Corey, for example, the technically 10th book of the Expanse series, is again a series of short stories that were originally published online that sort of slot in between or during each of the best of the 9 books. Again, flushing out the story a lot more. And if you've seen the TV show, a lot of the material in the book Memories Legion feature in the show, which is a nice little touch there. And the final one are the generic collections, such as the Mammoth Book of Best SF18, or whichever number we're on now. And these come out once a year, and our collections are what is considered to be some of the best science fiction stories written that year. And these often pop up in charity shops as well. Great big books, with story lengths ranging from a page to 100 or so pages. Different authors, different themes, but a great way to feast on an eclectic range of science fiction short stories by different authors, different backgrounds, different themes, all the rest of it. And yes, these can be quite big, intimidating books, but you're only really focused on a small portion of it at any one time. So carrying it around, you look like you're much more well-read than you feel. Other people just see you carrying a huge book, whereas you're just reading a 6-page short story about sentient toothpaste, or whatever. I would say these are harder ones to grade in that they say they're the best of this selection, but everyone's got different tastes, and I find that some of them I really enjoy, some of them I didn't really follow, and some I thought, this is pretty awful actually. And of course, if the first story you read in a collection like this is pretty awful to you, that's going to put you off reading the rest. Although I would say try and bear with it, because all the other stories will be nothing like the one you just read in terms of quality, style, everything. And a subcategory of collected short stories from different authors are collections edited by science fiction authors. For example, I recently picked up Nova 2, edited by Harry Harrison, one of my all-time favourite authors, and he's collected a bunch of science fiction stories that he really liked in this one volume, so I can now see if I enjoy the sort of thing that he enjoyed or not. Again, these are harder to get hold of specific copies, and not every science fiction author has done this. Brian Aldiss has done quite a few collections. I do recommend giving it a go, particularly for the idea of reading heavy sci-fi in a series of 10 books or more, with each book being a tome of 500 pages or more. A good science fiction short story is short, snappy, and to the point. So have you read any science fiction short story collections lately? Tell me what those are down below. Or what science fiction short story collection would interest you? You know, is there a specific author or theme that would get you hooked? Comment down below, please, but as usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other YouTube things if you want. Until next time, see you later.